you, and it's good to be back with you. And it sounds like Pastor Fred gave an amazing talk on harsh words versus gentle answers. So I look forward to listening to it a little bit later. So today I want to talk to you a third message. The first day, you'll remember I shared about the life of a man of God. Yesterday, I was able to share with you on obedience is the key. And today, I want to share about healthy communication. And our talk today comes from the Bible verse in Psalm chapter 141 and verse 3. And the verse says, "Take control of what I say, O Lord, and guard my lips." It's a very short verse, but it's a very powerful one. Guard my lips and take control of what I say. And as we talk about healthy communication, I believe that this quote by Miles Monroe is very applicable, is very good for our topic. And the quote says this: communication is the ability to ensure that people understand not only what you say, but also what you mean. It is the ability to listen and understand others. Developing both of these aspects of communication takes a lot of time, patience, and hard work. And in this quote, we can see that there are several things that lead to good communication, several traits. First one, being understood, not just speaking. Communication is not just the words that you say, but having people understand the meaning behind what you say. Good communication is not just talking, but also listening. Good communication is not just trying once, but training yourself, developing the skill of good communication. And before we begin to look at what healthy communication looks like, we have to understand what is the other side of healthy communication. What does bad communication look like? And I went to the internet earlier today and I went to a website that shared some 25 or 30 different things that define or that show you what bad communication looks like. I'm not going to share all of them, I'm going to share some of them. One way to see bad communication is always interrupting others. 2, negative body language. 3, poor listening. 4, being too emotional or having no emotion at all. 5, not asking enough questions. 6, being very harsh with your words, saying things like "you never" or "you always." 6, having unrealistic expectations. 7, silent treatment, where instead of communicating, you just don't say anything as a way to punish the person. Or 8, not respecting the opinions or the feelings of others, demeaning the way they feel or what they say. These are negative aspects of communication, and we all do them. I do them. One of my biggest faults is I interrupt people. I recognize that that is a fault that I have. It is a negative behavior that I have to work on, and it is a habit that ultimately I need to stop. So I recognize that I am still growing in how to be a better communicator. But the question isn't whether we do these negative traits sometimes, but do we do them all the time? Do we do them most of the time? Because if so, are you willing to unlearn, to stop this behavior? And instead, are you willing to learn the behavior, the habits of good communication, healthy communication? So what does healthy communication look like? What are some ways that we can identify it and understand it? One, you practice both talking and listening. Communication is not just one of those, it's both of those working together. Healthy communication is practicing understanding and empathy. Healthy communication is trying to relate to the person that you're talking to. You might come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different villages, different experiences, but you're still both human with feelings, emotions. You might be from different places, but you're still the same. It's trying to understand and relate to the person. Healthy communication means that you are available. It means that you're not always busy, but you're available to sit down, to talk, to listen. Healthy communication means that you want to ask questions to better understand the other person. Healthy communication means that it's not just what you say, but how you act that demonstrates that you care and are listening to the person. These are all signs of a good communicator. Now, we know what it looks like to be a good communicator, and we've just gone over what it looks like to be a bad communicator as well. But what does the Bible say? Because again, you and I were men of God. The Bible is our guide for life, and the Bible talks about communication. So here's some verses about communication as found in God's Word. James 1:19. Understand this, dear brothers and sisters. You must be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. The Bible doesn't say that you can't speak or that you can't get angry. It says that you need to be slow to do those things, but quick to listen. Colossians 4:6 says, let your conversation be gracious and attractive, so that you will have the right response for everyone. As Pastor Fred just shared, the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 2. A fool has no interest in understanding. They only want to share their own opinion. The book of Proverbs, chapter 15, verse 1. A gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make people mad. The book of Proverbs, chapter 12, verse 18. Some people make cutting remarks, or another word would be sarcasm, but the words of the wise bring healing. Are you a wise man? The book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 24 says, kind words are like honey, sweet to the soul and healthy for the body. The book of Titus, chapter 3, verse 2 says, they must not slander anyone and must avoid arguing. Instead, they should be gentle and show true humility to everyone. Communication is more than just talking. Communication also gives existence and life. Communication was part of creation. God spoke into existence all things. God communicated. Communication brings forth life, like in the New Testament when Jesus spoke and Lazarus rose from the dead. Jesus communicated. Healthy communication is part of the foundation of all relationships. Every relationship you have requires communication, but it's up to you whether you communicate good or whether you communicate bad. What would your relationship at work with your boss look like if you did not communicate at all? What would your relationship with your spouse or your wife look like if you did not communicate at all? What would your relationship with your children look like if you did not communicate at all? As you can see, everywhere you go, every interaction you have, every relationship you are a part of requires communication. Again, the choice is yours if you want to communicate good or if you want to communicate bad. But knowing the difference between good communication and bad communication is not enough. This is not an issue of knowledge. This is not an issue of I now know it. The issue is how do you cultivate it? How do you develop it? How do you practice it? How do you communicate in a way that is healthy and holy and honoring? Step one, healthy communication is a skill that you need to develop. Now, if you're a pastor, you develop the skill of Bible teaching. You go to school. If you are a lawyer, you go to college and you learn how to become a lawyer. If you want to be a police officer, you go to school and you learn how to develop the skill of being a police officer so that you can protect the public. Everything is a skill that you can learn. The same is true with good communication. Now, you might say, I'm not good at communication. That's not my gift. God did not bless me with good communication. I'm not good at speaking. I'm not good at writing. Maybe, but you can learn. You can learn how to be a good communicator. Healthy communication is a skill that requires three things. You must choose to learn how to do it. It begins with you choosing it. You have to make a decision. Yes, I want to learn how to grow in communication. After that, you have to put in the effort to practice. Just because you want it doesn't mean that it just happens. You have to practice it. You have to put in the effort. You have to keep trying and training in this area of your life. And you must commit to developing it over the course of your life. It won't just happen in 1 week or 1 month. It happens every day that you practice it, that you put in the effort, that you choose. Healthy communication does not happen by luck, but by commitment. And if you are not good at communication and you want to learn it, as you learn it, you will fail sometimes. Just like when you ride a bike or drive a car, you're not going to be perfect the first time, but the more you try, the more you learn, the more you practice, the better you become. And it's the same with communication. You must keep training yourself in the tools and ways of healthy, holy, and honoring communication. Step two, healthy communication takes effort. And the truth is, sometimes we are lazy. We work all day, we come home, and we want to relax. We don't want to talk to our wife. We don't want to talk to our kids. We don't want to talk to anyone. However, communication exists everywhere you go. You cannot escape the need to communicate with people because we were made for relationship, and communication is a part of relationship. Relationship with God requires communication. Relationship with your spouse requires communication. Relationship with your children requires communication. Even relationship at work or with your friends requires communication. As long as you are living, as long as you are breathing, you will need to communicate. And it is important to communicate well, not just at your work, And of course, if you communicate, you want to communicate good at your work. Why? Because if you don't, you will lose your job. Nobody has a job with no communication. Communication is a part of your job, no matter where you go, no matter what you do. But there's a place that's more important than your job, and that is your home. Healthy communication at home is more important than anywhere else because your home is the place where you spend the most time. Your home is the place where you have the most important relationships in your life. Your home is the place where you have the most influence in your life. And if you want to learn how to communicate well, if you want to learn how to communicate in a way that honors people, you have to remember that healthy communication requires selflessness, not selfishness. Healthy communication requires honesty, not half-truth. Healthy communication requires emotional presence, not just your physical body. Healthy communication requires commitment, not just one time. Healthy communication leads to fulfilling relationships, but bad communication will lead to frustrating relationships. So, what kind of relationship do you want? What kind of relationship do you want with your wife? Do you want a fulfilling relationship or a frustrating one? What kind of relationship do you want with your friends? Fulfilling or frustrating? What kind of relationship do you want with your children? Fulfilling or frustrating? Healthy communication can help you achieve and experience fulfilling relationships. Healthy communication means that you need to learn the difference between hearing and listening. They are not the same. Listening is not the same as hearing because hearing is simply what happens when noise enters your ear. That's what you hear. If you're on a road and you hear a car drive by, you've heard the car because the noise went past your ear. But listening is the choice to give your very presence to the person you're talking to. Listening is the choice to give your mind, your emotions, to give your heart. And when you choose to listen to someone, you are telling that person that you love them. Because listening is rooted, is founded in an attitude of love, in an attitude of care, in an attitude of value. Healthy communication means that you are asking questions. When you ask a question, you are showing two things. Number one, asking a question means that you recognize that you do not know everything. I do not know everything. Nobody knows everything. That's why we ask questions to learn. And that's the second part of asking questions. Asking question means that you want to understand as much as you can. And remember that word, understand. When you choose to not ask questions, you will find it hard to understand the entire picture of what is happening or what needs to be talked about. When you choose to not ask questions, you are showing a lack of patience to the person you are talking to. When you choose to not ask questions, you are showing a lack of value to the person you are talking to. By not asking questions, you are showing that you are more interested in what you have to say than in understanding. Healthy relationships can be identified not by how much you teach the other person, but by how much you want to understand the other person. Let me repeat that one more time. Healthy relationships can be identified not by how much you can teach the other person, but by how much you seek to understand the other person. Asking questions helps you understand. Patience helps you understand. Value helps you understand. Love helps you understand. You see, understanding comes through asking questions. Asking questions is what you do, but it also requires you to have an attitude and heart of learning. That is what you choose. Now, I've shared with you a couple steps of what healthy communication looks like. And so, just to review, we said healthy communication is a skill that needs to be developed. Healthy communication takes effort and time. Healthy communication means learning that it's not about hearing, but choosing to listen. Healthy communication also means that you are willing to ask questions so that you can understand. Now, here's some practical steps, some things that you can remember as you seek to grow in healthy communication. Remember, when it comes to healthy communication, you can only be responsible for you. You can't control the other person, but you can control how you ask questions. You can control how you listen. You can control whether you are present, giving your mind and your thoughts and your heart. Healthy communication begins with you. Healthy communication is more than just using the right word. It's, do you look at the person? What tone do you use? What kind of words that you use? Sometimes what you do in a conversation is more important than what you say in a conversation. Emotions and feelings can impact the way you communicate. For instance, if you're tired or stressed or upset, these can all impact the way you communicate. I admit in my own life that when I am frustrated and when I am angry, I don't always communicate the best. Healthy communication means that we are aware of our emotions and feelings that may cause us to communicate in a way that is dishonoring. Healthy communication also depends about timing. Just because you want to talk doesn't mean the other person is ready. Or just because the other person wants to talk doesn't mean that you are ready. Healthy communication comes when both of you are ready to talk and to listen. Healthy communication is more than you being right or you being wrong. Healthy communication means that you learn compromise, find solutions, seek restoration, and pursue reconciliation if necessary. It's easy for me to be tempted that healthy communication is when I'm right. If I'm right, then it must be good communication. But that doesn't help relationship. That just helps my ego. Because I'm not always right. Sometimes I'm wrong. And every time I need to learn more. I need to learn how to compromise with the people I talk to. It's not just always about me. I need to help people find solutions because sometimes people are struggling. Sometimes relationships are not good and I should seek restoration. And sometimes I've hurt people. So I need to ask for reconciliation and forgiveness. Healthy communication is not about your ego, it's about relationships. Healthy communication is about relationship and connection more than you just being right. And finally, I believe that healthy, right, good, and honoring communication is what God calls us to as His followers, as His children, and as His ambassadors here on earth. Let's read some scripture to understand that. Colossians chapter 3, verse 8 says, "But now you must rid yourself of all things, such as anger, rage, malice, slander, and filthy language from your lips." Those are attributes of communication. Proverbs chapter 17, verse 27 says, "Whoever restrains or controls his words has knowledge. And the man who has a cool spirit is a man of understanding." Cool spirit would be a form of patience in this context. And then, of course, in the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, verse 29, "Do not use foul or abusive language. Let everything you say be good and helpful." Everything you say be good and helpful, so that your words will be an encouragement to those who hear them. Today, the question I need to ask myself, the question I would like you to ask yourself is, are you willing to commit to healthy communication? Communication that is good, communication that is loving, communication that is right, communication that is kind, communication that is honoring, communication that is holy to all people, everywhere, in your home and outside of it. Communication that does not come from what your friends think. Communication that does not come from what your culture says, but communication that is given to us from God's holy and perfect word. Thank you very much, Fred, and I now turn the time back to you.
Wow.